Thanks so much, everyone. We're going to go ahead and move into the question and answer session. I'm Theresa Shalaby. I'm a Senior Regulatory Services Manager here at Certara Synchrogenix. I'm one of the panelists. And we also have Begonya, Nafria Escalera, who is a co-panelist, and I'm going to have her kick off the questions. And also, we don't see any questions right now in the question and answer bucket, so please do feel free to ask questions, and we'll go ahead and take care of those as well. So Begonya, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Teresa. It's my pleasure to be with all of you today. My name is Begonya Nafria. I'm working at Sant Joan de Déu Children's Hospital in Barcelona, Spain. And in order to facilitate this discussion, before the attendees can put questions in the chat, we have worked with Theresa, and we have identified interesting questions to our panelists today. The first one is to Dr. Mark Turner. It has been very interesting, the presentation of the Connect for Children project, that it's making a big difference in the European context for pediatric clinical trials. But we know that this is not a European project, and it's going to have an end. But before we want to ask to Dr. Mark Turner about how do you envision the future of pediatric clinical trials in Europe, thanks to the legacy of the Connect for Children project.
So I should start by unmuting. I should start by recognizing that when I say we did this work, I meant Begonya and her colleagues in Barcelona did most of the work in PPI for C4C, but we try and do it in an integrated way. So we're aiming to make C4C a sustainable organization. We are going to base a new organization in the Netherlands, and we're just in the process of developing a business case to do that. How each of our business units fits in, the education work, the network, the PPI work, how they all fit together is still to be decided. But we're determined that the services that we've set up and shown are viable and useful, that those services live on, and primarily through a fee-for-service approach. So that's why it's one reason to come and share these experience with everybody here, because all these services will be available to anybody that wants to use them at a price. But everybody, big pharma, small pharma, biotechs, academics, will be able to use these services, and we'd advocate that because it's much easier going to Begonya rather than having to do all of that due diligence and all of that contracting yourself. Just as the same going to Amy, that everything's been put into place, and that's much easier for sponsors and other organizations than doing it for yourself. There are some minefields here. I think Amy and we have underplayed. There are lots of compliance issues to think through. In the UK, we have what we call safeguarding, which is how to protect minors from undue harm. And if you're doing it for the first time, there's all of those to sort out, particularly if you're working across multiple cultures, multiple languages, multiple jurisdictions. So Begonya in Barcelona and our secretariat in Nijmegen, the Netherlands, have worked through all those issues and have common contracting arrangements. And so that's the basis for our sustainability. It's a reliable service, it's an effective service. It's clearly linked in with Amy and the groups in the US, and developing links with colleagues in Japan and other parts of the world. So we hope to build a sustainable service on something that's reliable, effective, and gives the young people the loudest possible voice for the minimal hassle for all parties.
Thank you, Mark. I think that we are making a difference, because the patient centricity of C4C for us, it's an important asset, and as you have mentioned, it's also a next step. Share these lessons learned and build something collaborative beyond Europe. Thank you, Mark.
Right. So I have a question here for Ellen. What are the most relevant challenges that you have seen from the patients and the parents around capturing and analyzing the health data using digital tools. So it's sort of a technology challenge question. What have you seen in that regard?
Yeah, I guess from a patient's point of view, I think the key thing is to appreciate that one size does not fit all in terms of pediatrics needs, particularly for behavioral issues. So we know that some younger children that don't have behavioral issues would tolerate wearables and other aspects fine, whereas older children that have some behavioral behaviors issues that sort of prevents them being able to tolerate a wearable or that kind of aspect. And therefore we found that, that there's definitely a need to look at every single group individually to ensure the feasibility and the usability of the technology is appropriate for them. And so I say that's the key part from the patient and family's point of view, is the tolerability of whichever digital kind of way that you're bringing in. The other aspect is that this is a new type of data, so the volume of data is much, much higher, and the frequency of having this real-time data is a challenge for clinicians and sponsors and pharma people to understand where their obligation is in that sort of managing this large volume of data that's coming through in real time. So from an adverse event reporting potentially to actually making meaningful analysis of it in the context of the patient's day-to-day life.
Thank you. That's very interesting. And, from my perspective, I am the plain language summary person here at Certara Synchrogenix, and it will be interesting, once more studies like this come about, how we will even communicate that kind of information and how it was collected. So it's definitely an exciting area.
Yeah, for sure. I'm biased, but the communicating up front as well is really important. I think explaining in clear instructions and what we're expecting and how we're expecting the interaction with digital tools to happen is also a really important factor.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I have a question for Max, but before I will read a comment that we have in the chat that it's for you, Max. It's a person that didn't put his or her name, but she or he is wishing to you a lot of luck, with your career, not only as a patient advocate, also with your future, professional, in the medical school. Thank you for this comment. And my question is related to the expertise that you have. You have the privilege to be a patient advocate in UK. For us, it's the reference model, I think worldwide reference model in terms of patient involvement. But I think that it's important that if you can share a couple of lessons learned about the experience that you think can be transferred to other national health systems regarding the role that you have in your national health system.
Yeah, of course. Firstly, just thanks to the really kind person who wrote in the chat. That's a really lovely thing to hear. I think in terms of lessons for other healthcare systems, the two things I would say in terms of involving young people, and this is children and parents, but also young people, teenagers and adults, to think about how you can make the system work best for them in terms of allowing them to advocate in whatever way works best. So I'd start off by saying that systems need to be flexible. We can't expect people to always be available for half-day or full-day meetings with large research expectations, lots of reading to do. If they're a parent, they've also got two other children and they're trying to advocate for one of their children and the rest of their community, or if they're a young person who's also trying to figure out how to do their exams or apply for work or university. So making the systems as flexible as possible is the key, and I think that starts by making them primarily online, and it also starts by making sure that there's a wide range of young people who can get involved in a kind of ad hoc way, so that we're not relying on the same few folks, because there's two issues with it. One is that you get a biased representation of young people's views because you'll be relying on the same voices, but equally also those young people will have a large amount of work to do in terms of representing the community, and if they have the time, that's great, and I've been very lucky to, with my studies at uni, I've been able to work around it and trying to be flexible. But equally, it means that there's a pressure and an expectation on them which isn't necessarily conducive to the best level of advocacy work. My other recommendation would be to think about how you can support the young person or the parent in terms of psychological support. I think actually it's something that we don't recognise enough for patient advocates. You know, they're talking about their stories or talking about people they know, and sometimes, and I've had this experience myself, those issues can be quite distressing and difficult to talk about. You know, there's a lot of things that we discuss in terms of research or advocacy work that means that actually, if you don't have any kind of support network around you, it can be quite distressing and it can put people off. So I think in terms of allowing for the kind of longevity and for allowing for an enjoyable experience of advocacy as well, think about how you can embed a support system, maybe a mentor, a scientific mentor or some kind of psychological mentor within the team to help support whoever's involved with the team. But also then just a general kind of environment that allows that young person or that parent to be able to say what's on their mind and kind of be involved in a way that allows them to be vocal.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank you. Thank you,
If
Max.
I might comment from another part
Yes.
of the UK, I think it's very important for the doctors, the physicians to realise they don't know best. I think as I travel around, at least the Northern Hemisphere, I think that's one difference between the UK and many other countries, where in many countries, physicians are trained to think they know best. And sometimes that's necessary if you're about to stick a knife in someone, but sometimes it's not. And it's a real path that the UK community has been going down on the past 20 years. We've got carrots and sticks. The sticks that are driving us towards this approach are people like Max and the story, where we really have to do as we're told by people who have had these experiences and can articulate them so effectively. The other part of it is the carrots, which is you can't get any grant money in the UK these days unless you pay proper attention to the people that know what they're talking about, what we call experts by experience. And so you only get any clinical research these days by having people like Max on the trial steering committee, on the trial management group, as a co-applicant, writing the papers or as a co-author on the papers. So we've been driven by experience and pulled by the national infrastructure into this process of taking people seriously. But it's a multi-stage step, and it does need a significant change in attitude by most healthcare professionals. Sorry to interrupt.
Mark, I think that you and Max, you have raised important points. One is the kids are kids, and we don't need to forget this. The other part is the emotional part, and I just was thinking that last week I had a meeting with parents about how we can improve a clinical trial protocol, and the only thing that they suggested is we agree with the research, we are willing to help obviously other kids because probably it's too late for our kids, but in this protocol we need this emotional support that Max mentioned, and in some cases it's quite easy to have this patient perspective or needs in the protocol, and the best way to know the needs is asking to them. And the model of UK, I love the model of UK because it's the right environment to include the perspective of the patient, and for the academic studies that usually the resources are very scarce. If the system allows and facilitate the involvement of the patients, obviously, it's a guarantee that the kids and the parents will be there. I think that we have too much to learn from UK. We don't have too much time to go today in detail, but thank you so much for these three comments. Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have a question for Amy. What are the main areas of content that the educational curriculum of ICANN covers? We'd just like to know a little bit more about that piece.
Sure. So we started that curriculum after talking to our kids who wanted to learn a little bit more. And one of the things that bubbled up, we did a survey and said, what are your top 50 things? Tell us what you want to know. And over the course of time with ICANN, we'd like to bring you that content and help you feel very secure in what you're learning. So the kids first shared that they wanted to better understand how to tell their unique story. So every child that comes to us has a expertise, as Mark so beautifully put, in their experiences. And they wanted to know how to summarize that in a way that other people would hear it. So whether you're a 6-year-old or you're a 16-year-old, how do you make your experience concise and educational for everyone who's listening? So we developed our first curriculum module, and it's called Telling Your Story. We launched it in 2020. And we created modules that were broken down by age group because we knew that the learning was different for each age of each child. So starting with the youngest participant of ICANN in that age 8 category, all the way up to our young adults, we have ways that they can learn and practice sharing their story. And they can do it individually, or they can do it together as a group. They can do it with siblings and family. However they want. We don't tell them what to say. We just help provide the tools of how to make their story concise. Then the second thing we did last year for 2021, we launched a module series all about clinical research. And this time for this module, we invited experts all over the community to join us. It was led by Colin Hovinga, who was on the last session. And Colin from IACT helped us create a comprehensive guide that was age appropriate to kids, explaining all the terminology about clinical research. And we felt that was really important because sometimes when terms are brought up to kids in clinical research, it's not defined in a way that makes sense to a child. So we wanted to ensure that they had the capability and understanding of knowing what those terms were, how to apply them. And then we wanted to provide some fun activities so that they could immerse themselves and feel like they weren't at school, but that they were learning things that they could use later on. So we launched that in the summer at our summit, and we made it available freely to everybody. So anyone can go to our website and see any of these modules. We decided to engage with Colin again. He was very gracious in giving his time. And we are doing a new leadership module on leadership. That module will help kids understand the role they play in being an advisor and an advocate in their own healthcare, helping to explain healthcare and clinical research to others, taking it to places where they can do fundraising for their hospital. They can help teach other kids their own age. They can speak out about rare, chronic, and complicated conditions, whatever that might be, but giving them the tools to feel very empowered about adding all those things together, sharing your story, and then the clinical research piece. We anticipate that we'll have modules down the road on things like healthcare, general health advice, information, safety. We feel that's really important for kids, whether it be social media safety or whether it be safety around your home. And we have a list, like I said, from the kids where it's quite comprehensive of the things they want to know. They're always thirsty for more language and understanding the things around them.
And that's wonderful to hear. I'm sorry, were you going to say something else, Amy?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I really love this holistic approach. You know, where these children can, you know, learn these other things. So it's more of a, you know, this plugs into their lives in a more holistic way. And, you know, I think that is just incredible. And we've gotten some kudos from the attendees as well, that they've enjoyed learning about these modules. So the next question we have is, this one is for Mark. Do you know of other networks based in a similar model of providing PPI services, or is C4C unique in that regard?
Well, I'd highly recommend ICANN, which has a similar model. The group that Begonya leads is the European Young People's Advisory Group Network, EYPAGNet, which is made up of young people's advisory groups across Europe and increasingly other parts of the world. That again comes from the UK, where for 15, 16 years now, we've had government funding for these groups that have that mentorship, that have that education and training. So that there are those examples. Increasingly, Amy and others are reaching out to other parts of the world, Africa, South America. I know there's work going on in Japan and Australia, New Zealand. So I think the really challenging part of the world is low middle income countries, where we really do have to take a different approach to stakeholder engagement. And wherever you do it, the principles are the same, that you have to get to know what people want, give them a voice, and then get out of the way while people speak for themselves. But I think the groups I've mentioned are the ones I'm aware of. Amy or Begonya may have a different view. And of course, Max will know a lot too.
No, I think you covered it well, Mark. We feel very connected with Begonias chapter and all the chapters in Europe. We routinely work together on projects to share and collaborate as a whole. What's happening with the kids in one part of the world is most likely happening, and there's a need for that same voice to appear in other parts of the world. It's for anyone who wants to be involved in ICANN, we take any child from anywhere. I stress that quite a bit during the presentation. So I hope as people are listening and they're thinking about getting involved, that they reach out to us and contact us about how that might look for them. We also offer a virtual chapter, and that's so important because we just can't reach every voice in person, but we can reach them all right where they are. So if we can connect people that way, we're always looking at unique ways to make sure that can happen, and just getting the kids there. That's what we want. So it matters so much.
Yeah, this is a very important point, no? Because in our case, no, the young people that are part of our group, they said that they feel that they have a privilege because, it's a group of 15, 20 young people, no, under the umbrella and the custody, the training and all the activities that we do in a pediatric hospital. But unfortunately, not all the pediatric hospitals, even in Europe, no, we have this kind of groups, and in other, countries, there is no white pack, no, at this moment established. And I think that we need to work all together so hard to facilitate, these opportunities to everybody, because at the end, what we are doing with these groups is to guarantee the rights of the kids to be involved, to have a voice in health and in research. And this is a global, a global rights. It's not a matter of Europe, US, or the other parts of the world that Mark mentioned. And we are requested to have diversity in the clinical trials, but we need to have also diversity in the PPI activities. It's a pending lesson, I think. We need to be at this point critical, but it's in our roadmap for the future. I don't know, Max, if you want to add anything, because you are our patient this afternoon.
Nothing apart from to agree with your point there, Begonya. I think diversity is probably the most important thing that we'll be thinking about in BPI spaces for the next 10 years. One example is today, in the panel today, most of us are white, most of us are middle class, and I think actually that is in itself representative of an idea that actually we're quite a close-knit group sometimes, or at least if we don't try, we will remain that way. And certainly that a lot of the work I've done has been with folks who are really well-intentioned, but ultimately represent a small fraction of society. And if we want to do our jobs better, we've got to be able to work and try and be as representative as possible. So.
It's important, and beyond the white packs, we need in some cases to set up focus disease groups of patients and the role of the parents there, because also they have a voice and it's important to listen them. I think that our experience and Amy and the other colleagues that we learned for many years now that we have learned, it's that every project is different, and we need to think in the right methodology to involve the patients in these projects. And this is my next question to Eileen, which are the methodologies that from the experience of Aparito you have had to involve patients and parents in your projects? Probably it's not here.
Okay,
Eileen.
so I'm sorry, Begonya, go ahead.
No, I was checking if Eileen is here or not.
I believe she had to leave. She had to leave. She had another engagement she had to get to.
No problem.
And we are at the bottom of the hour. We don't have any additional questions from the audience. So I really want to thank all of you for your time, excellent input. this was a fantastic session, and we will close this session. And I don't know if any of the Certara group will close out for the day, but this is the last session. And thank you everyone for your attendance and your time. And hopefully we will meet again soon and continue this really, really important work. Thank you so much.